What's up, YouTube? The detective here. And today I wanted to make a guide on the 4-star servant Nero Claudius, not her 5-star variant. It'll be a pretty casual guide. I have no idea how to edit. It'll be mostly just talking about what I think about her and like what goes well with her in terms of supports and stuff. Um, I mean, for supports, after like doing this all, I noticed that most supports are really standard, so it might just be better to make just a big guide of supports and where to use them and stuff. So I'll do that eventually, but I'll just go briefly over it. Also, this will be pretty loose because I'm really bad at like making a script and stuff, along with editing, of course. So, I know what I'm gonna say, so I'll just go like on top with it. So, Nero Claudius, 4-star saber, unlockable after Rome. We've got a lot of, we got a couple of rate ups for her, so you might have gotten her. I think she was my first NP5 golden servant. It's either her or Carmilla. And I like her, that's why I'm making this video. I think she's one of the more fun servants to use right now. In terms of stats, I believe she's like right in the middle of the 4-star sabers, with Salter obviously being on top, then Rama, then her, which is fine. And she's also the only arts offensive saber. Dion doesn't really count, and I really like arts teams. I didn't like them at first, but after playing around with them, they're pretty fun. Oh, and also all of these images are snipped from Grand Order Wiki, which I'll link in the description. So we'll look at her skills. Her first one's Migraine B, which is increase your mental debuff resist, which is kind of useless, and restore HP for yourself. Um, a lot of like the 4-star servants have a similar skill to this, and they pretty much all have like 2000 at the end. The only difference for this is Nero's heal starts very low at 500. So technically it's worse, I would say, even if it reaches it, until you get to around the later levels, 8, 9, or 10. And it's like the least important skill to level up, so who knows when you actually level it. Imperial Privilege EX. Her main damage still kind of, which recovers HP 1200 to 3400. And then of course RNG buff, 60% on increasing attack, 22 to 44, and defense 22 to 44. Sadly, they both have a chance to trigger, so it's like a double coin flip instead of just putting it into one, which would be so much better. This is probably the skill you'd want to level up to 10 first. First of all, it's a heal again, and it's better than her first heal with the same cooldowns. Also, the RNG obviously is troublesome, but it's not the worst. Especially being an art saber, it's not like you really need to do that much damage, I'd say, since you're spamming so much. And also, it's a really low cooldown, so it's not that bad. Then we got our third skill. I believe you need to do interlude like 2 or 3, if there even is a 3. I don't remember. And it grants self-guts status for 5 turns 3 times, which means when you activate it, there's kind of like 3 layers of guts, like Hercules's bond craft essence. And it's really good. It's pretty much what mates this servant. um, because you can just put it down and probably and then heal her up. So it works really well, and in a lot of cases you can even usually get to loop the effect. Well, not loop, but like you can activate it like maybe 2 or 3 turns after it's gone. So it's also a really important skill to get to level 10 to get the maximum cooldown. I'd still say Imperial Privilege is better because it's more stable and the attack buffs. I mean, it's good. They're both important, and my brain doesn't really matter, but it's nice to have. So just looking at this skill set, we can see that she's more of a survivability servant. Like her goal is to stay in the battle for a long time and do damage over time. And it works, especially if you do get that 44% debuff, defense buff with all this heal and stuff. And of course, we'll be talking about what supports her, which will also aid her. That's how it usually goes. She's really good. Her skill set's really nice. The only problem is the RNG in it. But like, to be fair, if it didn't have RNG, it'd just be absolutely broken. Like, she might just be the best 4-star saber. But yeah, it just shows she's a grindy type controlish saber. Next we have her Noble Phantasm, which is an AoE arts attack that ignores defensible enemies and then debuffs them. So it starts at 450 to 750, then goes to 600 to 900 after the interlude. It's alright. It's not the best because first of all it's art, so it's not gonna do as much as Buster, and also all the defense debuff is good from 20 to 40. The thing is, it only lasts 1 turn, so it only lasts that turn. It doesn't actually even carry on to the next turn. So it's only good for like the burst. But being a art saber on an arts team, you get to spam this a lot, which is good. And it doesn't really matter if it's AoE at this point. Like mine probably does with my NP5, like my Fode level 80 one. She probably does like 80k. Maybe. I don't know. But it's decent. It kind of has some weird scaling at NP4. I don't know what's up with that, but yep. So these are the craft essences I'd use on her. I think her bond one's like a 15% to everyone, but you really don't need that. You want to put something good on her. So obviously we have formal craft, kind of this one of the 3 standard ones. Obviously there's imaginary around and limited over 0 with the 25, or if you have a limit broken, 30%. And it's really good, right? Like, you can't really deny how good formal craft is. It's just standard. It increases NP charge. It increases damage. The scaling on attacks a little less, but it's good enough, honestly. Obviously, we have another ending, which is if you want to run the crit variant, which means running 20/30s on your supports. This is also good. I've been kind of running I've been running this build, even though I think the formal craft one's a little better, just because it's more consistent. But it works really well with it. Obviously, crit anything works at this point. And it has better scaling. If you even get it to 100. Like, I have a level 71 formal craft. So, and of course, you have the two two NP damage ups, Black Grail and Heaven's Feel, because naturally it's an NP spam, so these will always be good. It's kind of more all in, but it works. I haven't really tried it, but I think it works. Obviously, Black Grail having an 80% to Heaven's Feel 50, both limit broken. Straighter. I don't think the demerit's that bad, especially with all the healing, so I'd go Black Grail. Unless you want to be really safe with it, then Heaven's Feel is fine. Any other one? You could go like a Dot CE or something else, but I really don't think you need it. I think these are like the four best ones. Or if you're running crit, you can run like the Judo one, but that's probably not that good. Alright, moving on to frontline supports, which means these are the supports you'd run like right beside her, and obviously backline supports are like the lower star ones. And also, you can always just put one of these in the backline or two if you have the room. It depends how much space you have. But yeah, first we have, I won't go too much into their skills and stuff, because like I said, it's probably better just to make a video about them. Because then if I do like a character guide, I'd have to do it all the time. But we have Tamamo. If you play the game, you'd probably know she's the best art support, and she's pretty much a staple on every arts team. You should always run one of her. She brings a charge, a remove for the enemy's charge, which is kind of like a mini stun. It's good at controlling the game. She has a defense debuff with like a 3-turn defense and then an additional 1-turn one, which means she can tank pretty much almost any attack unless it's super effective against her. And of course, what people love her for is her arts buff, which is a 3-turn arts buff that heals. And that's insane. Any buff to the character's main type of attack is always insane. And hers is pretty much the best because it also adds a heal, which the other ones don't. And also, of course, she has her Noble Phantasm, which is an AoE heal with an NP charge, and it reduces the cooldowns, which, as we stated with Nero, her cooldowns are really, her skills are really important. Her second and third one, especially her third one, because you want to get that quick reset on the guts. And basically, Tamamo just adds way more survivability, damage, cooldown reduction. You know, she has low cooldowns with her first and second skill already, so it makes it really spammable. And yeah, she's just the best. So I think you have to run at least one of her. I mean, I wouldn't run double Tamamo. I think that's a little too aggressive. But you can run anyone else after her, but I think it's pretty standard to run one of her. Okay. Sorry, there's a cut there. I had to stop the recording. I didn't talk about the getting back onto the topic. I didn't really talk about the stats just because it's honestly not really important for the support, especially the attack, because you know the damage is nice, but it's not their main purpose. If anything, health is important, and of course, Tamamo has a lot of health, so pretty good. Anyways, moving on to next, we have Zoolang or Waver. I know people are like split 50-50 on if you like him as his original or Waver. I just call him Waver because it's easier to say. And personally, I think he's the best third slot because I believe Waver's the best servant in the game at the moment. Like I think you should just run one of him in every team. Like I can't even really think of a team that you wouldn't want to run him in because even on those like weird meme teams like the Phantom and I don't even, the Charm team, or the Siegfried and the Dragon, the guy that turns the enemy into a Dragon trait team. They're all like just 2 servant combos, and Waver would just make that, just put Waver in the third because he's Waver. So obviously he brings NP charge up to 50% basically, with 10, 10, and 30 on a single target. Pretty good attack buff, one of the better ones. It also kind of buffs the damage of the supports. The big one is his defense buff, because the thing Tamamo doesn't bring is a defense buff for Nero, and Nero's defense buff is RNG attack, so with this it really like, because if she doesn't have a defense buff, healing kind of doesn't matter, because if the enemy's just attacking big, they're just gonna rip through the health. So the defense buff really, really aids in her kit. Also, he has the crit buff, which, it's usually used just for the 30 NP, but if you are running the crit team, it's obviously really good. And of course, his Noble Phantasm is the AoE charge down, chance to stun, poison, and defense down, which is amazing. Especially since it's an arts team, you're gonna spam it. It adds a lot of control, stopping a turn, reducing their charge, debuff. The poison's not really that important, but still, it's amazing. Also, like I said with Tamamo, her cooldown reduction pretty much scales with the quality of the skills. All 3 of Waver's skills are great, so it honestly just goes the best together, I would say. And I'm sure like almost everyone runs Waver. Like, you should have like at least one person with a 10 10 10 Waver. Like, I have 4 of them, so it's not too hard to find. But just because I said that doesn't mean you have to run it. Because next we have Nero's other form, with Nero Claudius Bride, which is a 5-star limited server. You can't get her anymore. She was for Valentine's only. Like I said, like the stats don't matter much, but it kind of matters more for Bride, since she actually kind of does damage. Unlike the other ones, also she doesn't have 3 arts cards, which is, it's not too concerning, but it kind of brings down the arts chain spam a bit. I think she's a pretty her skill set's pretty basic. They're all single target, and you get to choose who you want to target. There's an attack buff that I believe does something with crit. I don't have it up on screen. She has a heal, and she has a golden rule thing she can put on someone, which is pretty basic. I think you'd run Nero just because you want more damage on the team, because like I said, inherently the team doesn't do that much damage compared to like Buster teams. All the damage is basically converted to NP spam, and Nero pretty much raises it more than the other ones. But even that being said, I think Waver's like the constant actually no, definitely Bride will boost up the damage. Also, if somehow Nero dies, she can also kind of act as a carry. I think she also has a arts NP single target that also decreases defense, so she's good as an aggressive servant. You'll only lose like control, like a stun and stuff, and you won't have a defense debuff, but she's pretty good. And then we have Media Lily. She, I kind of just, I don't know, she's alright. She's known to being the best healer in the game, just because she has the skill that increases the target's healing received. which is really good, especially on Nero, who has 2 self heals, so you can just plop that on her and she'll probably heal to like 2/3 of her health at least. She also has that AoE heal. She basically only brings heal, and she doesn't really do a lot of damage because she's a 4-star. I wouldn't really recommend running her. Like, if you do run her, I think you'd have to run Waver instead of Tamamo. She's in a weird place. I don't know. The good thing that she has that the other ones don't have is an NP. I mean debuff heal, so she can remove debuffs. Is that? It's all right. It's all right. It's not too much to say about. I don't know. You can use her. I think she's decent, and technically she works well with Nero. It's just Waver and Tamamo just seem really good, and maybe Bride. She's always a nice backliner, to be honest. If like Tamamo dies, just switch her in. Anyways, let's move on. I put these two because these are just the 2 best ones for these servants. Obviously, this, even if you're not like running the crit thing, it's always nice to have. Like, sometimes I'm lazy and don't equip the crit CE, but like, it's just decent to have. And obviously, if you're running the crit variant, which is like on this team, it's not that good because you're mainly just trying to spam your NP, but it's never bad. Just the problem with running a crit variant is that when one of them dies, and just assuming your backline doesn't have these, because it'll be pretty expensive, it kind of ruins the chain because you don't have a lot of crit generation naturally, especially on this team. But it's pretty good. And we have Prisma Cosmos. I think this is the best one, just because what you want on the supports again isn't damage. You just want to get their NP off, and this one lets them get it without having to constantly have them in the arts chain, because you won't always get to. So yeah, I think it's good, or any other NP ones like Banquet, whatever. But this one's just kind of, it feels the best for me personally. I probably could have put more like Formal Craft. It's alright. Especially on Nero. It'll be a lot better on Nero since she has a damage NP. I mean Nero Bride, obviously. And I think if any of them have the 15% art Bonsi, which probably 1 or 2 it does have, it's also worth using. Just helps the whole team get NP and boosts damage. That's that. Okay. On to backline. Hands, obviously known as like a staple. Oh shit. Well, not shit. I forgot to put in the Americas, the new Americas supports, just because I don't really think they're that important. Sorry to say. They don't really bring anything new. Helena's just not good enough, especially with her long cooldowns. I mean, Tamamo helps it, but same with Edison, even though his NP is pretty nice. The best thing they bring is their crit star thing. So if you're running a crit team, you could put them in, but they're not. They don't really fit this team anyways. Now we go to the supports. Damn, this is gonna be a long video. I'm gonna just kind of run through it. Hans, he's known for his Noble Phantasm, which is also an RNG skill. Guaranteed, I think it's attack and defense. RNG with, it's AoE. Also, it has a guaranteed, kind of regenerative heal. It's used just because, first of all, he's super cheap. His skill's really spammable because he has a skill that increases his NP. And yeah, I think he's you should probably run him, at least. Of course, you have Mash. Who doesn't like Mash? Zero cost. It makes your whole thing more flexible. Her defense buff. Like, her whole kit's just really good. She can like taunt herself and then use her invincibility to take like an NP. She brings 2 more defense buffs. She doesn't get hurt by like anything, and she's just constantly getting stronger as the game progresses, right? Soon she'll be like, I think she turns into a 4-star. I don't know if she's still free, but that's pretty great. She's also something I would run. Like, honestly, I could just see running like maybe you have like a support or like one of the frontliners in the backline and running Hans and Mash. It's usually just good enough. If you want, you can change it up with Mozart, who has an arts buff. I think it's 44% at level 10. He's really there if you wanna like really like you just have like a nice arts an NP arts chain on Nero, and you think you just want to deal the big damage, just like swap him in and you will be you will do a lot of damage. But that's pretty much to him. I think he has a debuff Noble Phantasm. But I think it's also RNG, so it's pretty much all he brings to the table, obviously being a level 1 servant or 1-star servant. And then you have normal Media, who I didn't know what she did for like the longest time, but people kept telling me she's good, so and she is good. She has her basically her first skill charges her NP to full, and then her NP removes buffs. So the team really lacks buff removal, so putting her in is great. Especially, I mean, it's situational. If you know the boss or whatever just constantly buffs, she's a really nice counter to that. So yeah, I think Hans and Mash are more staples, while Mozart's for the burst. I think it's like, I don't know, I wouldn't really run him. I don't think you need him. Medi is interesting though. I can see me running her depending on the boss. If it just like buffs like every other turn or something, she's definitely a nice one. Also, I think she gets a skill eventually that removes buffs from you, which just makes her better. Okay, I thought that was a cut. Oh shit, there's more. David. Yeah, David's another situational one. He's mainly used. Obviously, he has the NP, or NP skill that's an AoE heal, very small heal with a invincibility once a turn. I mean, invincibility for everyone, which is pretty good for dodging NPs, and obviously, it's also better than evade. There's less counters to it. I don't. He's one of the ones you could just run as a staple too, because he's pretty good, but everyone on the team's already pretty tanky if you're running the wavered Tamamo supports. But he's good, especially if you're facing someone that just keeps spamming an AoE NP, then he's a nice save. And Asteros. I still haven't leveled him, but obviously he's very good. I remember people keep saying he's the best 1-star, which might be true. I don't really remember all of them, but and if you're wondering why he's good, his Noble Phantasm is a 6-turn debuff. 6-turn attack debuff and defense debuff. I think they both go. Well, the attack goes up to 20 per level, and overcharge goes to 20 defense debuff. So yeah, it works. You should have him at NP5. It's not that hard. And again, 6 turns is huge. And it's also good because its team generally kills kind of slower. Because sets up more. I think also he gets a buff on it. I don't know if it's out yet, but it's also like a 2-turn, like a 40% 2-turn or 3-turn debuff for attack, which is insane. He's just an insane guy to use on big bosses. Yeah, there's probably more. I just can't think of them at the moment, or they're not as good as the ones I've listed. Oh shit, I don't have the C's list. Okay, I'll go over CEs. Obviously, if you're running crit and you can somehow afford more 230s, go for it, why not? But, uh, NP charge. That's all I can really say. NP charge is good on them. It's how they roll, especially MASH, honestly. Because hers is kind of low. But yeah, you just want to get their NPs off. You know, this is Golden Banquet, Petite, Devil, Prismatosmos, even Kaleidoscope. The thing about Kaleidoscope is I actually don't really like it, except it's like good for farming, but it really works with support, especially if you're just swapping them in for the quick hit. So, I mean, Hounds doesn't need it, but it wouldn't be bad on MASH. Or if they buff a lot, even Media, just for the double turn of debuffing. Even Mozart. Yeah, Kaleidoscope's good on the back line. I think that's where it belongs the most. Unless it's like a one stage boss fight with no build up, then putting it on the front line isn't bad, just to get it off quickly. That's generally not that big of a problem for this team since you get your NP really fast. Obviously if they have the 15 NP or arts, bond CE, it's decent to use. Defense Cs are always decent to use. What's it called? 500-year obsession. It's when they die, they do like an NP seal and like a really long poison debuff's also decent to use. Like put that on MASH. She taints for a bit after using all her skills. Just put the taunt on her and kill her off. So always decent. I don't really look at Bonsies too much. Oh, I totally forgot. Media Lily. Pancakes is the best. Just run Pancakes. There's no other skill better. It's very rare that there's a CE that you run over anything, but for Media Lily, Pancakes is just hers is really good. It's like a 30% increase on heal while she's on the field. Doesn't really matter. It's the same for both of these. I think you have to run the Kaleidoscope on this one. That's not optional. You should run it. Or some sort of thing that has a big NP starting charge. Just because he won't last long. He's low HP and probably die really quickly, so get that Kaleidoscope while you can. That's it. Like I said, I prefer Tamamo Waiver than I probably run these two. You know, maybe if I have a support, I'll just put another waiver or something in the back line. I don't know. I think that's the best. Again, I'll make a support list, which basically goes over the supports in detail, then gives them a rating and what teams you would want to put them on. Because that'll be very helpful, I think. I don't have a... Shit, I forgot. What are they called? Mystic Toads? I forgot to put those on. God damn it. Well, the Mystic Toads I would use for this team. Let's see, there's the first one. The OG one, I feel is always just decent, right? A 50... Like, you should have it at level 10 by now if you've been playing. It's like 50% attack buff for return, a heal, and evade. It just brings a lot of survivability to the team, I feel. It's always, it's just good, right? You can run it on almost any team. Actually, you can just run it on any team. There's the one that gives you like a 50% art buff, which is obviously the best buff you can get for this for one turn. But its other skills are pretty useless, so I wouldn't recommend running it. It's a little too useless. I personally love running the combat tier, which gives you the basic charisma buff, which is, it's alright. It's not the best attack buff, but it's good enough to not make it suck. Gander, which is a stun. And you want to control an opponent, so having stuns is good. And the best thing about it is obviously the swap out, which means you can swap the positions, like from back line to the front line, which is really nice in almost like all teams. That's how I'm running it. It's good for like certain situations where you need to pull one in, or if they're on the verge of death, you can throw them away for a bit and let someone else tank. I just think it's the best overall one. Then there's the one with the card shuffle thing. It's like shuffle the cards. It has a invincibility one and NP charge. Which sounds good. Sounds good enough. I haven't tried it. Why not? Right? I think there's one. Oh yeah. There's one with it's like a give a servant a two turn cooldown, which is pretty amazing, right? The other skills are, but like just going on that, it obviously has like some sort of defensive skill. I'm just blanking out right now. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good summary to it. To end, I'd either run the cool. Those four are the best. I think the other ones are just unusable, right? Anyways, I think that's pretty much it to the video. All in all, she's a really good survival character that can probably survive for a long time, even if she's solo. She's meant just to stay in that. I think she works best in a team that also gives more survivability, so she'll just never die and can constantly spam her Noble Phantasm. And I think she's one of the better sabers, honestly, to use, like, because there's a lot of the NP5 ones aren't really fun to use, except for Rama. I like Rama. Rama isn't fun. I actually like Rama better, but still, it's a good one. Just going over the pros and cons. The pros is, like I said, high survivability. You're playing an arts team is another pro. It's always satisfying just spamming the arts and feeling in control. It can even be viable against non-Lancer Berserker ones, like neutral enemies, I feel. It'll be harder, but as long as it's not like against archers, I think the team will do fine. Some cons is it's kind of slow because it lacks damage. And maybe it's not the best for grinding. It's more just for making sure you get that kill. And like I said, I like arts teams, but some people probably don't. They just want to smash. So yeah, I think that's it for the video. If I had to give her like a rating, it'd probably be a nice solid 7. She's enjoyable. She's definitely something that's in consideration to Grail if you want. Put her to level 100. I think she'd be definitely a viable team to use. Anyways, thanks for watching. This was a long ass video. when I make the support guide, I won't have to go over the supports as much. But yeah, make sure you comment, or if you want, comment in the comment section below. Tell me, what did you like the guide, or was I wrong, or did I miss anything? Do you hate do you hate the format of it being so shittily edited? But yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching if you watched this whole thing, or even if you skimmed it. It was fun making. Bye for now.